From the round table at Uncle's Studios in beautiful Southern California, welcome to another edition of WorkCom Matters, the central location for employees, employers, and you independent contractors as well. My name is Steve Appel, and I'll be your host for the next hour with some talk, some news, and hopefully some answers about WorkCom Matters. Thanks for being part of the show, and if you can break away from your WorkCom Matters, feel free to give us a call and clue us in. The phone number worldwide, 818-357-4120. You can be old school, send a fax, 818-475-1437. You can send me an email, WCExaminer, AOL.com. With me in studio, my right-hand man, Mike Zyma, my protege, attorney Robert Ozeron. Scott Walton of Uncle's Studios is on the board working out the technical difficulties. John Scalia, attorney back in Munich, Germany, back at WorkComp Central, making sure the whole damn thing goes right, is Jake Paris. Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of WorkComp Matters. I got to tell you, I'm going rogue tonight. I am PO'd. Basically, I am pissed off. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. We had a guest that was coming in, and she not only flaked on me once, she flaked on me twice, and I am pissed. Boy, I'll tell you, you try and do someone a favor. I mean, it's like, hey, Steve, can you help me out? Now, it wasn't help me out, can you be on the show? It was like, hey, Steve, I've got some questions about work comp. I'd like to improve my practice. Can we sit down for a bit and talk it out? Heck yeah, come on the show. Let's talk. Let me interview you about what's going on. Let's go out for drinks after the show. Drinks are on me, and I'll tell you anything you want to know. But instead, not twice, but not once, but twice, she cancels. I mean, talk about see you next Tuesday. I really can't believe it.
Well, I was wondering why you were particularly crabby tonight. And,
yeah, we were, and here's the answer. I mean, I planned this not once but twice, and of course, when you plan for a guest to be here, it changes the whole mood of the show. It changes the whole preparation of the show. I'm figuring I'm not going to have to look up and write as much news, and then I get the message. In fact, of course, it was by email. It wasn't by telephone or whatever. And it's like, okay, fine. I'll write the news to the show. And so, trying to think, well, what the hell am I going to do? What am I going to call the show?
What time did you get the email?
When I came, I went to court this morning. I had a trial. I got into the office about 11:30, and I checked my email, and there it was. I mean, I guess it came in this morning. I mean, at least the guest was kind enough to send an email and notify me. Didn't wait till the last minute.
Supposedly there was some type of medical situation also.
Yeah, supposedly there was some type of medical situation, but that was the excuse the first time. And, what can I say? I mean, I've had a handshake with WorkComp Central now for almost a year and a half. I mean, me and WorkComp Central are doing this fantastic special project on a handshake agreement. We trust each other. I quoted them a very fair, reasonable price. They pay me reasonably on time. I produce a professional show that people are interested in. We're growing like a small snowball, going downhill, getting a little bigger. Mike, I got you. Robert, I got you. You guys come in. You dedicate your time week in and week out. That's all on a handshake agreement. Everybody's getting a little something from it. And then, well, you know what? Maybe this is just my therapy. WorkComp Matters is my therapy to come and scream at the world for being screwed. What can I tell you? But you know what? Overall, this is fantastic. I wouldn't have it any other way because there's no way to appreciate the highs so much until you first experience the lows. And you know what? That's just life, baby. That is just life. I got to tell you, we're brought to you by A1 Lawn Santa Monica Tickets. If you want the #1 computer management system used by more workers' compensation attorneys than any other system in the planet, give me a call, or on the planet, 818-357-4120 for your no-strings-attached money-back guarantee, $1 a day, A1 Law. And if you want those hard-to-get, sold-out, even front row concert, sports, and theater tickets. I've known Brian for over 20 years. We have a handshake agreement, 310-395-8587. But you're dialed in to work comp matters. And, of course, please subscribe if you like us. And then if you don't like us, well, not only subscribe, but tell a friend. We've got a whole bunch of news today, some things that are coming up. There's a proposed California bill requiring employers to keep records of sexual misconduct complaints. United States employers are ordering fewer pre-hire marijuana drug screenings. More states are suing due to OxyContin maker Purdue Pharma, settlement in a suit versus Goodwill and a Calidat. I probably pronounced that wrong. Believe it or not, there's an increase in sexually transmitted diseases. Physician-assisted suicide for California is in the news. Clearing marijuana convictions, and, of course, the explosion in Aliso Vallejo. So we've got more talk, more news, and hopefully some answers for you employees, you employers, and, of course, we haven't forgotten about you independent contractors, even though that California wants to kick your ass out of here. And we've got some more news stories, but I know there's one that Robert wants to talk about, and that's Gavin Newsom and the governor's race. I don't think we have a story on it, but you know what? Since we're kind of all over the place, and I am just pissed off, what do you think about Gavin Newsom?
Well, all I know about him now is what I've heard is that he slept with his best friend's wife like a decade ago.
That was about 10 years ago. I don't know whether that mitigates anything, but that was a while ago.
No, he was an adult, right?
Oh, yes, he was.
Yeah, so there you go. Okay. So now I'm kind of interested in this reality show governor's race. I wasn't kind of tuned in.
One time?
Well, I know about Travis Allen, right? He's running on the Republican ticket, right? Mr. Allen, I think is his name.
I don't know Travis Allen.
I don't know him either.
I've never
Do you know
heard
anything, Robert, about him?
I've seen a couple commercials, I think. I hope it's getting his name right. That's how bad it is right now. Or is this really vague?
Yeah, but when was the last time California had a Republican governor anyways?
Duke Majian, Wilson.
Well,
Ronald Reagan.
Ronald Reagan was the best one to come to mind,
Schwarzenegger.
Right? I don't know, but California definitely needs a correction, right? I think we can all agree. We see the problems, the homelessness, the drugs, the disease on the streets related to the homeless. We're doing fairly well as far as employment goes, but a lot of people around just living on the street don't want to work, apparently.
Yeah, and of course we moved up from number 6, I believe. Now we're number 5 GMP in the world.
Yeah, but that's so misleading if you walk around on the streets, right? Because you know that there's these huge companies in Silicon Valley, right? These billion-dollar companies, and that's great, right? Apple's going to be the first trillion-dollar company, and it's located here in California.
You don't think it's going to be Amazon?
Well, no, Apple's, I think, it's very close. They were talking about it on the news. It's like $12 away in the share price. It's at like 188, I think, and it needs to hit 200.
Okay.
And it'll be $1 trillion. So it'll be the first $1 trillion company. But I do like Amazon. I think that's like $700 billion, though, around that market cap.
Yeah, but we have more homeless on the street.
Yeah, we have a lot of homeless. You can see the problems, the crime. I don't know if the crime has gone up or down, but it feels more dangerous as far as I know that I've seen more crime, that it feels more dangerous.
Especially where we work.
Yeah, Van Nuys. I don't know. Do you guys feel like you see more, perhaps, gang members on the street?
Not gang members, actually. No. Just like I'm primarily worried about just crazy people.
There's a lot of crazy people, but I think a lot of people could also be in gangs. Mostly, I can tell from like the way they.
I haven't really seen that. I haven't really seen that.
Well, I guess we all see different things on the streets of LA. It's a big place, obviously, right? We have a little bit of everything, or a lot of everything, but. It would be nice to perhaps clean up the streets a bit. It feels like we're going in the wrong direction a lot of the time, and at least the general economy and the country at large seems to be going in the right direction.
Well, do you think that Garcetti is on the right track because he's really doing it through taxation?
No, Yoga Boy? Is that what they call him?
Yoga pants, yes.
Okay.
Yoga pants, where's that come from?
No,
I haven't heard that.
Garcetti espouses that everybody should do yoga. It keeps you level-headed.
Oh, yoga pants, huh?
Well, a lot of this is honestly surprising how California manages the way that it does. I don't know if California was built prior to my, being born into such a place where this is sustainable, or if they still kind of subsist from the country at large. But if this was isolated, California on its own, let's say that they really did break off in their own little country or whatever it was, I'm not sure California could survive. Just simply the policies. I'm sure all the employers would immediately leave, and it would be an awful, awful place.
California, the problem that I see is you've got so many people that are taking advantage of the benefits that are out there, and the benefits are not being equally dispersed. And I'm referring to food stamps, and I'm referring to welfare, and I'm referring to housing, and that is being provided to the underprivileged as well as illegal aliens. Now, don't get me wrong. If someone has been paying their bills, if someone has been being a productive member of society and paying their taxes, and then all of a sudden they run across a rough slope, I am more than willing to help them out for a year or two if they need help, but they can't simply be sitting on the couch and eating potato chips. I want to help them with their medical. I want to help them with their food. I want to help them get back on their feet. But in the process, they have to help us too by getting educated or re-educated.
So let me ask you two questions there,
vocational
boss.
retaining. Sure.
Okay, so the hard one here.
Yeah.
If you're running for political office, you have to think about it.
Okay.
All right, first, you believe in drug testing for food stamps and welfare and public benefits?
I do not believe that you should be allowed to use your welfare card at a liquor store. I think you should have to go to a market, and there should be certain things.
But what
that
about
you
testing
should
for
not
drug
be allowed
for substance
buy.
abuse?
What about testing, specifically testing?
For substance abuse.
Yes, I think that if you want public funding, you should be tested for substance abuse. And if you fail the test, if you test positive, then you should go into a publicly funded rehab, which I'm happy for my tax dollars to get you to kick that monkey off your back.
Yeah, maybe with some Voc Rehab, something to kind of get your back, get your life started again. It might be a good program.
Yeah, a lot of people that are homeless. Firstly, we've talked before on the show about how there are a lot of drug addicts that are homeless. There's also a lot of mentally ill people that are homeless. And for the women that are out there, most of the women have been abused by people in their lives. And also a problem I see is that a reason why you have a lot of drug addicts that are out on the street is because they're kicked out of their shelters, or they leave their shelters or the rehab places too early. And unfortunately, they're not cured, and they just relapse.
So, Robert, do you think Garcetti's on the right track here?
I'm not sure what Garcetti's done.
He seems to be throwing money at it.
Yeah, higher taxes. I know if you have a business in LA County, right, you have to pay a total revenue tax, right? There's a small tax based on your total revenue, not your on your gross,
I think
right?
that's
not
a
your
city tax.
Yeah,
I
the
think.
city tax.
Yes.
That's different. So that's why you have to make sure where you register your business, what city you're in, physically, right? And I think we all we located ourselves here in the San Fernando Valley for a reason, right?
Yes.
But that's okay. So that's a different conversation about business and how we're all
Well,
trying
actually,
to get
Burbank
by.
is supposed to be
The
very
best.
Very
I heard that too.
business friendly.
Yeah. So, but a lot of these policies that they've put in place, I understand, are making it very difficult on businesses in LA. They rather open in different places like the Valley. The Valley itself has discussed separating from the city as
That's
far
been
as
going on
economic.
for so many
Yeah,
years.
but of course there's more resources being poured into it now.
Did you say
It's getting-
place it? You're talking about a shelter of some kind?
What do you? Which one?
I don't know. I just thought I understood you to say there was talking about placing something.
Oh,
in
they're
San
separating.
Oh.
Separating the Valley
the valley
from the city.
succeeding from the city of Los Angeles.
Yeah, and my understanding is that the amount of money contributed by the Valley towards the city is grown, right? And it's more disproportionate. We should have the numbers here, but I think we covered that a couple of shows ago. Man, we had a lot of shows together. We talked
Perhaps
about it a
when the
lot.
candidate was here.
Yeah, I just we got to figure something out, right? Someone's got to be reasonable in LA. Got to tighten the screws all across California.
Well, not only talking about California, but 6 more states on Tuesday announced lawsuits against OxyContin maker Purdue Pharma, LP, accusing the company of fueling a national opioid epidemic by deceptively marketing its prescription painkillers to generate billions of dollars in sales. State attorneys general of Nevada, Texas, Florida, North Carolina, North Dakota, and Tennessee also said Purdue Pharma violated state consumer protection laws by falsely denying or downplaying the addiction risk while overstating the benefits of opioids. I don't know how many homeless on the street are there because of prescription medication, but I know that heroin use has picked up quite significantly. And I wonder if we have a story tonight about venereal disease, if anything. The
I saw
contributory
that.
factor has to do with more people being homeless.
Yeah, man. And we talked about the hepatitis outbreak last show or two.
That's right.
The news seems to be going one direction on this topic, right? Worse and worse. Hopefully this, you can't avoid this type of reality eventually. You can only blame the rich and try to tax people so much.
Well, I think Purdue Pharma is dirty. I don't know. I haven't read the pleadings, and I don't know a lot about it. But from what I do understand, they're dirty.
I know this, that there is clearly an abundance of homeless people in California, which is totally disproportionate to the rest of the country. Additionally, there's an overabundance of illegal immigrants in California, which is disproportionate to the rest of the country. One clearly has to do with the weather in California, but I believe the other has to do with social services that California provides and offers without the checks and balances, such as drug testing.
It creates a
etc.
magnet. Yeah, we're a magnet.
Well,
creates
work
a
also
magnet.
work
Thank you.
also creates a magnet.
I find it very interesting that you see how a lot of these communities vote. And for example, if you look towards Santa Monica, right, you have these $1 million homes with a homeless guy sleeping right out in front. And these are the same people, if you look at the voting, who are voting in these policies. So they're getting a lot of what they kind of deserve, but they live with it in this kind of weird way where they pretend that it doesn't exist. It's it's hard.
Well, what would you do, Robert? I mean, would you build shelters?
Well, first you have to find cities to take these people, right? Some sort of voc rehab, maybe halfway facility that can work with them on an individual basis. But before you do that, everyone's going to say, not in my backyard, right? Everybody says that. So you have to actually put it out there like a competitive bid, right? Where in California, what city would like to have this, and just throw it out there. You never know what communities might be interested in this.
And then even sometimes when you offer the homeless housing, they don't want to stay in there
That's very true.
because they're being controlled and they have to follow rules. I've said earlier on this shows ago, I would love to see some type of self-governing culture where you have buildings right now that are empty, put some homeless in the buildings and have them govern themselves.
Okay.
But a lot of people say they would rather just stay outside.
Because there's no consequences. Unfortunately, you'd have to have consequences to vagrancy and homelessness if you're going to make it a crime, right? You could be soft on it, you could be individually tailored, but there has to be an increasing consequence, which is if this is your 5th offense, you refuse to take your pills, you refuse to not stop using the bathroom in the street, that's going to be now a 1-year misdemeanor,
Well,
right?
now they're talking about criminalized poverty. They're talking in that context about criminalizing poverty. I
Well,
thought that was interesting. I think the
that's just
ACLU is very in on
That's
that.
just more trying to split people up into groups, okay, of the have and have-nots. When you're actually living there and you're seeing somebody, injecting a needle in their arm and then pass out in a subway station and throw up all over the place, and you're walking your kid there, you're not thinking, oh well, I'm one of the haves and he's a have-not. No, you're thinking, can somebody help this guy out, get him out of here? Right? Maybe he can pick himself up off the ground if you got the right services there. We can all make a better world, try to do a whole, we all want a better place. I think that's basically where we all need to come to an agreement. It's just how we're going to get there. And sometimes it requires a little bit of strength, right? A little bit of tough love.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, telling people that, you know what, I know this is hard on you, but if you don't follow the rules, there's
The
consequences.
civil libertarians are armed and ready, though.
And speaking of consequences, rates of gonorrhea, syphilis, and chlamydia on California have shot up 45% over 5 years.
What are you doing on the weekend, boss? My God.
That was dirty, my boy. That was
sorry.
dirty.
Sorry.
Below the belt, as
Yeah,
it were.
below the belt,
People
yes.
who don't listen to, who don't know you, they're like, he's fine on the weekends. He's a really good guy. It's just sometimes it gets a little wild.
That's right. And it has resulted in 30 syphilis-related stillbirths in 2017 alone, new state data shows. And additionally, California also allows patients with less than 6 months to live. This is the
Assisted suicide
assisted
story.
suicide
Oh, it
thing.
goes
So
into
if you
next
get
story.
tired
Yeah.
of putting needles in your arms, California allows patients with less than 6 months to live to request end-of-life drugs from their doctors, a practice that has been allowed in Oregon for more than 20 years. Now nearly 1 in 5 Americans live in a state where a physician-assisted suicide is legal, according to advocacy groups, Compassion, and Choices. I have no problem whatsoever with assisted suicide. Do you guys think that if someone is deathly ill and in so much pain that doctors should assist them if indeed they want to die?
I guess I'd say I don't really have a problem with it. I wouldn't foresee such a situation where it's something that you really want to consider. Hopefully you considered all the medical options, but I can see that.
Well, I agree that it should be allowed, but like you said, begrudgingly.
Yeah, begrudgingly, you'd want to concede at the very end, maybe if it's a lot of pain, right? But at the same time, medical science nowadays, I'd want to go to the end. You never know. Someone wakes up one day, has a pill or a microchip they install on you. I know it's a TV show that they're advertising now where they install.
But you never know
things
unless you've
inside
been
your
in
body.
that situation, though.
That's true. You start to realize that in real pain. But don't they have
actually,
drugs to ease pain anyways?
Employees are getting microchipped now. Employees are getting microchipped. We had a story before on that. We're going to have a story again, and I can't believe that employees, as part of their employment contract, are agreeing to be microchipped.
For what purpose? Identification?
Absolutely.
It's like an RFID chip, kind of like a radio frequency where you log in and out of certain buildings because they have a transponder.
Everything, yes.
Okay. Because otherwise it'd be kind of strange to be like, is it installed or is it like a wristband?
Yeah, where is it?
No. It's installed in your arm.
All right, that's just weird.
Yeah,
That's just weird. I'm sorry,
it's
man.
That's
nothing
happening right now in Silicon
happening
Valley?
Right, I don't know.
Because I kind of heard it was Silicon Valley
Okay,
that they were doing.
It's probably it's like a cult, a cult of
it's
techies.
nothing that I would ever subscribe to. I know one thing: our man back in Germany is definitely not microchipped, and he's got all the choices in the world. He's still a licensed California attorney after 45 years, but he's hanging out in Germany, and he's got a story tonight. And without further ado, on Work Comp Matters, Mr. John Scalia.
Hi, this is John in Munich with the Work Comp International Report. This week we're going to have a history lesson. My undergraduate degree is in history, and I still read and enjoy history. I promise not to go all the way back to the Peloponnesian War between Sparta and Athens. However, I am going to go back about 80 years when there was a rogue regime in the middle of Europe. That regime was nationalistic, populist, and expansionist. In violation of the Versailles Treaty, regardless of its merits, the regime had managed to rearm Germany so that Germany was once again a main military power. It was also expansionist. If you look at a map of Europe before World War I, Germany was the largest country in Europe, excluding Russia. A lot of that land had been given away as part of the Versailles Agreement, so Germany was no longer that big, and the current regime wanted it back. The first object of Hitler's expansionist aims was Czechoslovakia. The Czechs are neighbors to the Germans, and in the Sudetenland, lots of German speakers were the population. So Hitler wanted the Sudetenland back as part of Germany. He was also very aggressive, and he had a real army. There was no desire in Europe to have another war. They had finished fighting the First World War, and they didn't want another one. So the Czechs had a primary defense treaty with France, and the French had no desire to fight, so they went running to the Brits, and they said, get us out of here. So the Brits dispatched their prime minister, Neville Chamberlain, to Munich, hardly a neutral site, to negotiate with Hitler. Basically, they gave Hitler pretty much what he wanted. They gave him part of Czechoslovakia. Nice, huh? And they said, okay, so we've satisfied Herr Hitler. Chamberlain goes back to England, gets off the plane at the airport, and says, we have guaranteed peace in our time. Well, apparently, peace in our time meant 1 year, because that's how long it took before World War II broke out. I've always enjoyed Winston Churchill's description of Neville Chamberlain as a sheep in sheep's clothing. Why were the Munich Accords agreed to? They were agreed to because of business. Lots of business was done with Germany, and the Europeans didn't want to interfere with that. Also because of a lack of taste for war. So, we've all seen how well the Munich Accords worked. They didn't. And today we have another regime that is nationalistic, populist, and expansionist in the Middle East. And that country is called Iran. And it also has a large population, it has a young population, and it has a growing economy. And it's not far from Europe. So European businesses really want to do business with Iran. But there was a problem. Most of this didn't bother anybody, except that Iran was also developing nuclear weapons. And that's a red line in today's world. So the Europeans got together and said, what can we do? Well, we can sign an international accord. Yeah, worked so well the first time. We'll get everybody together and we'll sign an accord which will delay Iran getting a nuclear weapons. And so they did. They got an international accord, and they signed an agreement which essentially puts the nuclear program on more or less hold for the next 15 years, allegedly. But even so, it doesn't kill the nuclear program. It just puts it on hold. Right after the agreement was signed, Europe agreed to business deals in Iran worth approximately $130 billion. Yeah. And that's why they really wanted the agreement. They didn't care about the expansionists. Iran finances armies. Iran has military bases in Syria. The Europeans didn't care about any of this because of all the profits they could make. So, when America pulled out of the agreement, the Europeans went berserk. The French finance minister said, nobody will ever sign an agreement with America again because we can't trust you. Really? Well, Russia was part of the joint agreement. Russia had actually originally guaranteed Ukraine's territorial integrity and sovereignty under Khrushchev. And when they occupied Crimea, people still sign agreements with Russia. As far as nuclear weapons, let me tell you something. The best guarantee for Iran never getting nuclear weapons is not a joint accord, but it's a country called Israel. Israel has the best intelligence agency in the world called the Mossad. And if they ever find that Iran is anywhere close to getting nuclear weapons, they will bomb that site into oblivion. They just finished bombing 21 military bases in Syria. You notice nobody seemed to ask, why does Iran have 21 military bases in Syria? But guaranteed, that's the realpolitik of it. So, and in terms of nobody will ever sign an agreement with America again, just like nobody will ever sign an agreement with Russia again, not true. There's not a country in the world that wouldn't sign an agreement again with the United States of America, especially if there's profit to be made. Well, that's the view from Munich this week.
And John, thanks once again for your valuable contribution on Work Comp Matters. My name is Steve Appel. We're brought to you by A1 Law and Santa Monica Tickets. If you want the #1 computer management system used by more California workers' compensation attorneys than any other system on the planet, give me a call at 818-357-4120 for your no-strings-attached money-back guarantee, $1 a day. A1 Law. And if you want those hard-to-get, sold-out, even front row concert, sports, and theater tickets, give my buddy Brian a call at Santa Monica Tickets, 310-395-8587. As I said at the start of the show, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. My guest flaked on me for the second time. I am just pissed off. I am going rogue. She can go ahead and see me next Tuesday. It's perfectly okay.
He's crabby.
That's right. I am crabby. And it's time for a musical break. I think I'm going to go pour some ice water on my head. We'll see you back on WorkCom Matters in a few minutes.
How does it feel to be one of the beautiful people? Now that you know who you are, what do you want to be? And have you traveled very far? Far as the eye can see. Baby, you're a rich man. Baby, you're a rich man too. You keep all your money in a big brown bag inside a zoo. What a thing to do. How does it feel to be one of the beautiful people? How often have you been there? Often enough to know. What did you see when you were there? Nothing that doesn't show. Baby, you're a rich man. Man too. You keep all your money in a big brown bag inside a zoo. What a thing to do.
Glenn Laughlin, La Familia on WorkComp Matters, baby. You're a rich man. My name is Steve Appel. We're brought to you by A1 Law and Santa Monica Tickets. If you want the #1 computer management system used by more workers' compensation attorneys than any other system on the planet, give me a call at 818-357-4120 for your no-strings-attached money-back guarantee, $1 a day. A1 Law. And if you want those hard-to-get, sold-out concerts, sports, theater tickets, yes, even front row, Brian at Santa Monica Brian at Santa Monica Tickets has them. 310-395-8587. So before the musical break, we were talking about how my guest, not once but twice, basically fooled me, and I am just going rogue. I'm pissed off, and so we had to get all of our news together and all that stuff. And speaking of that, the owner of a San Jose, California security company was arrested for allegedly underreporting payroll by more than $12 million in an attempt to secure lower workers' compensation rates under false pretenses and cheating his insurer out of more than $3.2 million, the California Department of Insurance announced Thursday. That's last week. Security Code 3 Inc. owner Tony Carson, 55 years old, of San Jose, was arrested in the sting, according to the department. Managers Victoria Cruz, 46, Lynette Wygand, 46, both from San Jose, and insurance broker Jaime Lugo, 60, of La Crescenta, California, also face charges in connection with the fraud scheme. In total, the foursome is charged with 18 felony counts of workers' compensation insurance premium fraud, according to the statement from the insurance department.
Now, that is, to my recollection, the first time a case of premium fraud has been prosecuted. Robert, can you? I'm sure there must have been, but I can't recall.
I've seen some.
I've seen
but
some,
very
too.
few. I've seen one where they retroactively, demand all the premiums, and then they cut off your comp insurance, and then now the company doesn't have enough money to pay retroactively. So
Yeah,
they're
but do
talking
they
about going
charge him with a
bankrupt.
crime? Do they charge him with a crime in
Well,
those cases? I know there's collection efforts, but
Yeah, I don't know about the crime aspect, but I would like to see if it's a big employer and it's maybe one of these staffing agencies, right?
it's a security company, security guard
Yeah.
stuff.
You know what? Those are
It's
people
not staffing, I don't think.
depends on the number of employees that you're illegally not insuring. I'd like to see it based on the size of the employer. I'm not too interested in prosecuting individual mom and pop shops for one, uninsured worker.
Well, we've got a story about Uber, Lyft, and how they were trying to get out of a lawsuit from classifying their drivers as independent contractors. And believe me, that is coming down the pike soon, which is why Uber and Lyft they can't wait until they have those autonomous driverless cars, because then they're not going to have to worry about employee or independent contractor.
That's true. That's story number one if you're looking for it, Steve.
And I am looking for it, so you know what, Mike? Just go ahead and find it, because I can't find it.
Okay.
I was looking for it as I was talking.
But that is for sure what Uber is looking forward to, the driverless cars, right, Robert?
The driverless car story?
Well, no, for Uber.
Here it is. The judge refused, yeah.
Oh, thank you. Oh, you want to read it?
About the high school student?
Robert's been hoarding news stories.
Ah, that's where it was.
All right, let's see.
Crying out loud.
A judge refused to let Uber Technologies, Inc. off the hook of a high school student's claims that her driver made lewd comments to her, making another rejection of the company's argument that it isn't responsible for driver's actions. Tuesday's ruling allows the 16-year-old assault and false imprisonment claims to proceed, adds to the ride-hailing giant's legal vulnerability over driver misconduct with passengers. Uber and rival Lyft both announced Tuesday that they will no longer try to shunt complaints about sexual assaults in a closed-door arbitration amid mounting pressure from the Me Too movement for more transparency in how such matters are handled. Uber also said it plans to release data on sexual violence and other dangerous incidents that occur on its ride-hailing service.
Yeah, basically they're deathly afraid that this is going to go to trial where they're going to be held responsible for a, quote, independent contractors, close quote, actions, which is the last thing they want. So they are on their knees with their hands together, just praying, we're going to make these changes, we're going to make those changes, but please, whatever it is, don't make us responsible for this independent contractor, because then that person arguably is the employee.
I think a case just came down from the Supreme Court recently on that, and Uber lost, right?
Yes, we announced it. We announced it last week, except it wasn't Uber, it was Dynamex. And essentially the court has not issued the final decision, but as we read last week or the week before, the California Supreme Court, in its partial decision, made it harder to classify employees as independent contractors, essentially saying, now we're not only dealing with control, we're not only dealing with taxes, but if you are performing the main function of what the employer does, and in the Dynamex it was drivers,
Yep.
You're not an independent contractor. You are an employee, because without providing that service, your business ceases to function. And they made the distinction that if you are a Dynamex company and you call a plumber to fix the plumbing, that is not the regular function of your job. But you can't be a driving company and have drivers driving for you 40 hours a week and consider them independent
Yeah, it's
contractors under
obviously-
any circumstances whatsoever.
We've been expecting that a long time.
Yeah, it's not too hard to analyze it. It's just that they've been trying to make money hand over fist. You think that perhaps someone should be held criminally responsible over there for such a misclassification?
Not criminally, but very possibly civilly and financially.
Well, I think that's important. And I want Uber and Lyft to succeed. I do want driverless cars, right? I think everyone deserves them.
We're not ready for them yet. As I've said, we're 10 years away. I've been saying that all along since this show started.
Okay, but let's fast forward 10 years from now.
Fair enough.
And older people can now go anywhere they'd like
Johnny Cab,
without
Johnny
having
Cab.
without having calling their grandson to come pick them up.
You can go party. Go party.
Yeah. Well, they can go to the store. They can go to the pharmacy. It gives more freedom of movement for people who may not have a transportation on their own and don't want to ride in like the metro. Also, of course, driverless cars will cut down on traffic, right? Because they should all communicate with one another.
Well, the number of DUIs would go down dramatically.
I don't know about that. Took
Really?
a Lyft this weekend, and I was remembering that years ago when I had to call Yellow Cab Company, and it took 45 minutes for them to get there and pick me up. I just go on my smartphone, I click on the Lyft app, and the car's there in 7 minutes. I got driven home 3 miles away. It cost me like $5.50, $6.
So but back to the employment question.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, the Lyft drivers, the Uber drivers, you don't get in there and negotiate with them, right?
Correct.
No, it's set by Lyft, but it's third party.
And you don't exchange any money either.
No, it's handled by this third party. It's almost as if that third party is the one you're doing business with, and this person works for them.
And also, this person could no way have my business unless it was for the Lyft app.
So we can extrapolate it into this lawsuit here. Can you imagine that you hire somebody, they ask you, can I go get a ride from you, use your service, and you send over some sort of sexual predator to pick up a little girl?
It's negligent entrustment all day long.
Oh, yeah. That's definitely negligent retention and hiring and entrustment, all of that. So it's something that these companies need to take real responsibility for, because first of all, if somebody is a predator, it seems like a pretty easy option to just wait to pick up the person who you enjoy as your victim, right? If you're some sort of sick person, it's you just have people in and out of your car all day, right? So you definitely want to have somebody like that if they're going to have somebody isolated in their vehicle, and you can see the charges here were false imprisonment, right?
Yep.
So
well, supposedly they're going to arm the vehicles with a panic button. Additionally, my understanding was, as I heard this morning, they are just now, talking about Uber, I believe, they're just now running statewide criminal checks.
Wow, that's really scary for everybody who gets an Uber, right? Really scary. They have no idea who they're sending to pick you up. It could be the shadiest person with a long felony record, or it could be somebody who's prejudicial against just somebody like you. It's very scary to think about. And the panic button in that person's vehicle. I wonder what they're going to do the moment that you turn around from installing the panic button in their car. They're going to just like uninstall it, cut it out, weld over it so you can't press it. Some sort of, it's their vehicle, right?
Well, yeah, but it would be supposedly a condition of them continuing to drive for Uber that they maintain a working panic button in the back seat. Supposedly, that's what they're talking about.
For some people, their part-time job at Uber isn't the most important thing in their life, and I don't want to get in a car with somebody who's a felon and doesn't really doesn't care about his job and who doesn't care about what happens to me right now.
You've never taken a Lyft or an Uber?
I've taken it once or twice. I have my own car. I prefer not. I don't drink, as you know, so I'm rarely under the. I'm rarely enabled to operate my vehicle. Put it that way.
And okay. I have a car, and I constantly drink, and I love to take Lyft.
Well, I've only taken it once, interestingly enough.
And that's why I drive my own car, because I want to be in control in such an emergency situation.
Exactly. Speaking of California Labor and Workforce Development Agency, Secretary David Lanier today announced that there are nearly 82,000 active apprentices in California, the highest number in the 79-year history of formal apprenticeship job training in the state. In 2015, California had approximately 53,000 active apprentices and is on track to double the number. California is home to the nation's largest and fastest growing apprenticeship system. According to the State Building and Trade Construction Council of California, the state-supported apprenticeships make more jobs available for young people out of high school.
California may soon require employers to keep records of sexual misconduct complaints under a bill advanced by the state assembly on Monday. The bill, by Assemblywoman Eloise Gomez-Reyes, would require employers with at least 50 employees to keep such complaints for at least 10 years. The records could help employers identify serial harassers, support arguments between harassers or complaints, and they can also be used as evidence in lawsuits and complaints related to other sexual misconduct.
USC admitted that it failed to appropriately respond to complaints about Dr. George Tyndall, a gynecologist at the university, who had been accused for years of inappropriate touching during pelvic exams. Folks, does this sound like a broken record with regard
this
to
guy
USC?
is sick.
It's okay. I wasn't part of. I barely was on campus a lot of the time.
Yeah, I mean,
I lived off campus.
If you came in for a cold, he would give you a rectal and a vaginal exam without a glove. Okay, this dude is sick. But then again, what a perfect story for tonight's Work Comp Matters, because I am pissed off. Fool me once, shame on you. Shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I had a guest who was supposed to come in, totally screwed up my day, but fortunately didn't screw up the show. It's not going that bad. My name is Steve Appel. You're listening to Work Comp Matters, the #1 central location for employees, employers, and also you independent contractors. We're brought to you by A1 Law and Santa Monica Tickets. If you want the #1 computer management system used by more workers' compensation attorneys than any other computer management system on the planet, give me a call. 818-357-4120 for your no-strings-attached money-back guarantee, $1 a day. A1 Law. And if you want those hard-to-get, sold-out, yes, even front-row concert, sports, theater tickets, give Brian at Santa Monica Tickets a call, 310-395-8587. More news now. A woman was killed and 3 other people were injured by an explosion that ripped through an office building in Aliso Viejo, about 50 miles south of Los Angeles. The authorities called the explosion suspicious, but provided few details. Up next with the next story.
The Los Angeles Times suspended the head of its Beijing bureau, Jonathan Kaiman, after he was accused of sexual misconduct. Wait, for the second time. Okay. We're doing a lot of news stories about people sexually assaulting one another. And I got to say, that's the one thing in LA that I have not seen on the streets. I don't see a lot of sexual harassment. I see a lot of homelessness and drugs and property crime. But I don't see a lot of sexual harassment. But I guess I don't go to the bars or something.
Well, at least now, my boy, you're acknowledging that it exists. I remember a year ago you doubted it was ever really happening.
No, I just doubted that it was the prevalence of all these men, or so many of these men are perpetrators. I thought it was more individual men had a lot of individual victims, right? So it's not 100 men and 100 victims. It's 3 men and 100 victims. Okay, so to extrapolate that all men are evil, listen, the guys who work for me, they're all good guys. I like to think of myself as a good guy. You guys as well.
You are a very good guy,
so,
my boy.
We try our best, and I just didn't see all of these sexual assaults occurring, but it seems to be specific people, like this doctor, like people.
Serial offenders. That's correct. I agree with that.
But I will notice that these serial offenders seem to be people in power.
I was just going to say
it's people that's
in
on the
power.
street.
Yes.
Yeah, we're talking about the Weinsteins and this doctor, people with these high titles who are using their positions to become serial offenders.
You're just a lowly applicant attorney who's building his business up from scratch. You won't get to accede to the level of power for another 5 or 10 years, right?
Yeah, I'm not sexual offender status powerful yet, apparently, which is good. I'll stay at whatever level I'm at, okay? Because I'm very happy here. But I did notice that there does seem to be more of an abuse of power that comes
Absolutely.
along with
No
these
question
sexual
about
assaults.
it.
Very true.
Very true.
Yeah.
Facebook revealed for the first time how much and what type of content it removes. It said it had taken down 865.8 million posts in the first quarter of 2018, mostly spam, and 583 million fake accounts.
The California High-Speed Rail Authority approved of a new business plan to operate a bullet train between Los Angeles and San Francisco by 2033 at an estimated price of $77 billion, according to the Associated Press. Now, this is not the Elon Musk tunnel thing.
Hyperloop, no.
No, it's a Governor Brown kind of thing.
It's a boondoggle. Now we can
cost overruns and such.
Yeah, now we could transport our sleeping homeless at high speeds between San Francisco and L.A., right? So we can send them straight to Dianne Feinstein up there.
Well, like a lot of public projects, it's subject to cost overruns, and boy, this is certainly no exception.
Well,
but if they were to ever build it, it would be state of the art. I mean, I remember I was living in the Bay Area when BART opened, and I still love to go on BART.
I love BART
Okay,
when I'm
and how
up
are
in
you
the
going to
Bay
stop
Area.
the homeless people from sleeping on
There's
this
a lot
train?
of them on there. It's awful.
Yeah, that's
That's
right.
true.
Just
Really?
like the BART system now,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So this is going to be a $700 billion
$77
homeless.
billion is what it said.
Why don't that's a really expensive moving house for this homeless person, don't you think? Don't you think we could put this guy up a little cheaper than that?
You cynic, you.
Well,
You're just a cynic for crying out loud.
Well, we all live in LA. We know what happens in public transportation in LA and in California all across, right? You can't have this when you're having other problems. This is the problem. This is what we're facing. You can't move forward when you know that no matter what you build, it's going to be overrun with drug addicts and homeless people in a night, and no regular person will be caught dead there, and they're still going to have to drive.
When we were moving back to Southern California, it was like we had one ceremonial final night. It included going over to Berkeley and taking the BART train. And it was like, this is why we're leaving. Okay. I literally had somebody come up to me and go, I have diverticulitis, like they do on Saturday Night Live. Literally having that happen. Some other person came up and threw up within like about 4 feet of me, and I went, and we were propositioned by prostitutes at the train station in Berkeley. I just thought that was interesting.
The White House scrapped the position of cybersecurity coordinator on the National Security Council. Cybersecurity experts and members of Congress said they were mystified by the move. I guess he made some bad comments behind the scenes to the Donald, and he got his ass
Well, why
kicked
would they
out of
get
there.
rid of a cybersecurity coordinator? I mean,
Seems
unless
to
they're
me
going to
like
hire somebody
it
else.
seems to me like that position is needed more now than ever before.
They're probably just, there's probably enough candidates. I hope there are enough qualified candidates. Speaking of which, you guys talk about the North Korea thing? They're threatening to cancel the meeting now if we don't cancel those drills with South Korea. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, that's what's happening. Kim Jong-un is saying, hey, stop that stuff out there, or I'm not going to bring my ball to the party. That's what's happening.
But do you think you think he's legit, or you think it's just a feint and he's
The
still
Korean
going?
people I know all along think that he's showboating for something.
Which means
They
he'd
don't
want
trust
to
him.
keep the meeting.
Well, they don't
It's
trust
still
him.
on calendar, as far as my understanding is. All the
For
security people.
For Singapore.
Singapore, June 6th. It's still on calendar, and security are apparently all preparing over there, my understanding. So as much as they say they're not moving forward, security is moving forward.
Well, I would certainly love to see that meeting between Trump and Un. It could be like, Reagan and Gorbachev, for crying out loud.
Or it's probably going to be a short meeting, if I was going to guess. He's going to walk in and say, listen, I need you to give up your ballistic missiles and all your already created nukes.
Yeah.
And he's going to say, no way. Or, okay, I'll do it, but first give me this much money, right? And he's going to think, you must think I'm Barack Obama. I'm sorry, I'm not Barack Obama. You're going to have to do this first, and then maybe I'll think about it,
So the longer the meeting is, the more positive it is.
Yeah, oh yeah, if they can get that far. right? If he says, no, I will never do it, I will unify the Korean Peninsula like my grandfather wanted or something like that, then
Well-
Donald needs to get up and go.
Well, we pretty much should know how long the meeting is going to take place, because I imagine we're going to be able to see Trump enter and leave the building.
Yeah, well,
That's
obviously,
the way it was in Reykjavik anyway.
it has to be a big scene, right? But of course, the meeting's going to be taking place in probably some small room.
Sure.
Where security's on both sides.
But I think we're going to be able to tell how long the meeting is going on.
A lot of times going into this, you'd think that they would have a lot of sub-meetings already getting the parameters up, right? Kind of brackets, right? You know what we're going to ask for. Let's talk about what you're going to ask for.
Wouldn't it be amazing to be involved in this whole process?
Well, hopefully the CIA has already built up a good profile of the people they're negotiating with, right? But
Secret Service.
Well, Secret Service is security, but the CIA is the one who's doing all this intelligence on North Korea, right? What they need, how they're living. Hopefully, I have no idea what they're really doing, right? I'm only presuming that's what
Starving
the CIA
is
does.
what they're doing.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the CIA. I'm only presuming that's who they're spying on. I'd hope they're spying on someone other than the Trump campaign, right? Or is it too soon? I heard that today Mueller's going to give it up and he's not going to indict a sitting president. Did you see
I
that?
heard. Well,
No,
Giuliani
I did
said
not.
that.
Yeah, that Mueller told him that
Correct.
which is another way of Mueller bowing out gracefully because he found nothing,
Yeah,
right?
you can't believe anything Giuliani says these days. I think he's off his rocker. He's
Why? I think he's
insane.
making more admissions for his client. You can probably believe him every time he makes an admission.
Did you hear he said that there hasn't been a terrorist attack since
9/11.
yeah, but he forgot about 9/11. He forgot, and it was in his city.
Well, he's getting. I guess maybe he's getting. I don't know. Maybe he's old, kind of.
He
Yeah.
appears that way to me, unfortunately.
I gotcha. Well, a lot of people have very long resumes, and it's very impressive, like Rudy's is. But there's a reason it's so long. It's because he's been around a long time, and now there's a reason he's available, right? Because he may not be performing at the.
I gotta say that the whole Korea thing is just shocking to me, and I just wish those parties well when they go into yak with each other.
I really think it's going to come out good. My name is Steve Appel. You're listening to Work Comp Matters, the central location for employees, employers, and you independent contractors. We've come to another edition of a great show. Sorry about my rant and my rave, but burn me once, shame on you. Burn me twice, shame on me. Don't ask me for any more favors. Maybe I'll pour a bucket of ice on myself and I'll cool down a little and we'll talk again. But don't talk to me again, please. You're a guest. You come on once, I understand. Twice, just forget it. I mean, all these good people. I have a handshake with Work Comp Central, which has been going on for a year and a half now. I have promised them on a handshake agreement to provide a professional show, which I have come through. I think out of 71 weeks, we have missed one show out of 70 weeks. That's a pretty damn good record. On the board, working out the technical difficulties from Uncle's studio, is Scott Walton. He's on a handshake agreement with me. My right-hand man, keeping me out of trouble and in check 90% of the time, Mr. Mike Zyma. He's on a handshake agreement with me. To my left, my protege, attorney Robert Ozeron. He's on a handshake agreement with me. Back in Munich, Germany, 45-year attorney John Scalia. He's on a handshake agreement with me. And, of course, all the good people back at Work Comp Central who continue to support and approve of this project, including, but not limited to, Leaf File and Jake Paris. They're on a handshake agreement with me. My name is Steve Appel. We'll see you again next week for another edition of Work Comp Matters.